Yeah, so we're going to talk about sports, I guess. We've got George, Jamie, and Jacob on the mic, ready to go.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, excellent start. Everyone can actually be heard, which is another good one. Okay, so first things first, Jacob, you beat Accrington. How does that feel?
I mean, not great because, you'd expect us to beat Accrington, and all we got out of it was a red card for Jaden Bogle. So,
I did have a quick look at it. There was 2 red cards, like one on each side.
There were one for each team. We could do without a red card to our left back at a time where we have 2 left backs injured, but it should give Ashley Cole a chance to see how he's going to do over the next few months before he off and retires. So we shall see.
Wonderful.
Okay, and Jamie, how do you reckon Leicester are going to do against Liverpool on Wednesday, or whenever it is you're actually playing them, or is it Tuesday? I don't know.
I miss being in the FA Cup.
Oh, me too, brother.
It was very sad today. When are we playing Liverpool?
I think it's Tuesday.
Well, with a bit of luck, Alisson will commit a suicide again and just give the ball to Iheanacho in front of an open goal.
I didn't realise you were being you were exaggerating then. I thought Alisson had literally committed suicide.
Oh no, I don't actually want Alisson to die. I just want him to make some howlers again.
To be fair, there are some Leicester fans that would legitimately just want the opposition to die. Well, Villa's reward for getting knocked out of the FA Cup by Swansea was we got to beat the bottom of the league team Ipswich 2-1 at home. And we nearly threw it away. We somehow nearly didn't win that game.
That would be very Villa, wouldn't it, to throw away against Ipswich?
Yeah, bottom of the league. But no, we took the W for the first time in 6 games at home, which is excellent news.
Yeah.
So let's get started with our little quiz that we have going for today. And we'll get to see whose knowledge is the best for the last couple of weeks. This one's over the last couple of weeks, obviously.
I think
Are you
the
keeping
answer is.
score?
Yeah, I'll be keeping score. Don't worry,
I think
guys.
the answer is clearly my knowledge is better. There we go.
Well, we'll see at the end, Jacob.
Also, yeah, Jacob is definitely going to win.
Well,
This will be embarrassing.
Good to see we're being so optimistic so early on about how well this is going to go. Okay, so the first round that we've got today then is the football round. UK football, like soccer, if you will. And the first question is to do with Marcelo Bielsa, who has obviously been caught in a bit of a firestorm recently in the news. As a Derby fan, it shocks me that you would say something like that. And the question is, which club from La Liga did Marcelo Bielsa manage for 2 years?
Oh.
Jacob, if you're going to do that in answer to every question, I am literally not going to be impressed.
Is it first to say it wins?
Well, yeah. If you give me the correct answer, then I'll give you the point. That tends to be how quizzes work.
Deportivo La Coruña.
Okay, and Jamie, have you got an answer? That wasn't correct. You only get one shot.
Atletico Bilbao.
Jamie, you cheeky. That is correct.
You cheeky.
So,
how did you know that?
Lucky guess, you know.
What we don't know is Jamie's actually got Wikipedia open on his laptop.
Oh no, if I was typing you would hear it quite loud.
That's what they all say. Okay, so yes, Atletico Bilbao, he then went on I think to Lille and then eventually ended up at Leeds because he had this pattern of taking jobs and then 2 days in resigning.
George, can we just be clear? It's Athletic Bilbao, not Atletico Bilbao.
Yeah, that's probably my fault.
I apologise. That's how it's spelled.
That proves to you that I didn't look it
up. But yeah, so obviously the big thing around him was Spygate. I mean, to be fair to the guy, he did actually come out and fully admit it.
It's got to be one of the funniest moments of football for a long time. Him just in a press conference. Just admitting that he sent spies to every other championship club this season. I mean,
it's literally he gets caught. It's like walking into a supermarket and getting caught stealing a fruit pastels bar. So then admitting you also robbed the Federal Reserve. Just
Oh,
Well, I
think
got
he's
caught
gonna
for
get
this
away
one. May as well admit all the others. Like, it's a bit of an interesting one.
It's
I
not
think he's gonna
quite.
get away
It's
with
not quite the real Spygate, though, is it?
We'll get onto that later. We'll get onto that little controversy later. But yes, for now, I think Bielsa's like he's got his slap on the wrist from Leeds.
Did you hear Claude Puel told them that he's been spied on as well?
He's been spied on, or he's been spying.
He's been spied on.
Oh my god!
It's like all the managers want some They're just trying to cash in on the compensation.
Literally. Well,
it's like it's hashtag Me Too. But...
I did read that Villa actually were one of the clubs that didn't submit like a complaint to the AFL. So I guess on behalf of my club, I have to say that like I don't actually think I think obviously it's not okay. I don't agree with it, but I don't think there should be a points deduction or anything.
No, I think he hasn't really broken any real rules. He's just been a bit of a twat, really. So I think
That's one way
I
of
was
putting
going to say it's a dodgy thing to do, but
yeah,
I can't see what.
I think they'll create a new rule because of him. They'll call it the Bielsa rule. Yeah. That'll be what happens.
That is, yeah. It saddens me that the thing about the guy being in a tree wasn't true.
I know.
That would have been phenomenal journalism. That's like an absolute tabloid gold.
Shame it wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, well. All right. Well, the next question then, also on football. In the 2017-18 season, how many goals did Harry Kane score for Tottenham Hotspur?
In the league?
Across all competitions.
Oh, it's like 36 or something like that, isn't it?
36 is your guess. Okay, Jacob?
I'm going to go for a little bit higher. I'm going to go for all competitions.
Oh, it probably is higher, actually.
Let's go for 39.
The answer was 41.
Oh.
So Jacob takes the point on that one. But yes. 41 goals across all competitions, and obviously also instrumental at the World Cup. If you add on his England performance across the across 2018, it would also be 49 in total.
Wow.
He scored 6 goals. He scored 6 goals at the World Cup, as well as 2 international friendlies and the UEFA Nations League that they have on at the moment. But 41 goals for Tottenham across all competitions.
I really hope none of the questions coming up are how does the Nations League work?
Honestly, the people at UEFA don't know. And I guess,
funnily enough, Jacob probably does.
Jacob actually invented it. It's so convoluted. It would make sense that Jacob would actually invent something like this. I guess the question that is begged from this is, will Tottenham Hotspur actually ever win a trophy, especially with Harry Kane out injured at the moment, and obviously they lost to Chelsea on penalties on Thursday night. Another embarrassing exit to the cup. I'm sure any Arsenal fans listening will be gloating about that.
I mean, you say it was an embarrassing exit, but what players didn't they have? They didn't have Harry Kane. They didn't have Son Heung-min, and they didn't have Dele Alli, if I'm right, did they? So
not having Dele Alli isn't really a bad thing.
So it's not that embarrassing, really. In theory, Chelsea should have, completely dominated them, but they didn't. So
all Dele Alli adds to that team is anger and Fortnite dancing. I'm sorry.
I remember the Dele Alli challenge with his eye.
Oh my god!
It's not that hard though, is it?
Literally, that was a Razzie Award of 2018. Was the Carabao Cup their best opportunity to win a trophy?
Well, I think eventually, if they manage to keep Mourinho, they'll probably win something out of sheer luck.
I mean, by laws of probability, if the world doesn't end and the club
in the next 5 years,
the club continues to exist,
it's
they will
in all likelihood,
at some point in the next infinite amount of time, win a trophy. But I mean,
so you're optimistic then? Clearly, like good vibes for Tottenham.
The world never ending is a pretty hefty assumption.
What will happen first? Will the world end, or will their new stadium open? Who knows?
That's a hot take.
I mean,
it's a fair point.
Isn't it meant to open in March?
Wasn't it meant to open
it was meant
ages
to open,
ago?
It was meant to open for the start of this season.
I mean, yeah, but clearly it is like slowly going forward, so like it has to finish eventually.
I think slowly is an understatement. But again, what can they do? I feel bad for the fans because obviously they've got these world-class talents. They've got most of the England squad. They're playing out of Wembley, which obviously the atmosphere is apparently good. I know in the Champions League last year the atmosphere was fantastic. But it's the fact that they still don't have anything tangible. It's kind of like with the Philadelphia Eagles where it was like, well, where are your rings? Well, the Eagles actually did win a ring finally last year, but Tottenham are still without a trophy.
Quite frankly,
how long.
The longer they stay in that stadium, the longer we get to watch incredibly funny matches played on NFL fields.
Touchdown Mahrez, which was one of my favourite tweets of last year, to be fair, because that was appalling. Like the fact they couldn't get the pitch ready in time. Like it's Wembley Stadium.
Yeah. I mean, Wembley's never had the best pitch, but I mean, the playing American football on it and then playing immediately after, not.
Yeah, it's not. It's never.
Who thought that idea?
To be fair, yeah, they should have gone and played at the MK Dons Stadium again. Moving on from the plight of Tottenham Hotspur, we'll move on to the NFL round, which obviously is quite relevant at the moment for this podcast. We've got the Pro Bowl tomorrow night and then the Super Bowl a week tomorrow.
Pro Bowl.
I thought you were cheering the Super Bowl, but then it became much clearer to me that you were probably sarcastically cheering the Pro Bowl, which we all know is
the game of the year,
the highlight of the NFL season.
I've got to be honest, I forgot the Pro Bowl existed until yesterday. I completely forgot, and then it came up on my newsfeed. I was like, "Oh yeah, the thing."
So did most of the players who play in it.
Did you see the Patriots mascot got tackled by Jamal Adams?
Yes,
and,
I did see that.
Himself?
Yeah, I did see that. He got proper upended. He spear tackled him to the ground, and all the Chiefs fans went wild. I wonder if that would have been. I mean, to be fair, that was a more valid roughing the passer call.
Yeah.
No, of course, the Pro Bowl, Tom Brady's been invited, 16 times or something? How many times has he been? Twice. That shows perhaps how much he cares. I mean, it probably shows how much we care.
It's normally because he's playing the weekend after. Not being funny, it's normally that. I mean, they actually moved the Pro Bowl forward. They moved it in between the Super Bowl and the Conference Championship because nobody watched it. So that
implies that people do watch it now.
More people watch it, according to the NFL's viewer statistics, anyway. So the first question is to do with one of the Super Bowl contenders, which is the New England Patriots. And my question to you is, who is the New England Patriots' all-time scoring leader?
Adam Vinatieri.
That would have been my guess.
It's not.
Wow.
Which means neither of you get the point. It is a kicker, though. It's Gostkowski.
Oh, is it?
Gostkowski is the all-time.
I suppose he probably has been kicking
leader
for them longer.
Well,
I mean, Vinatieri joined. Well, he was only there for 10. Thinking about it, whereas Gostkowski has now been there for longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, Vinatieri's like one of the veterans of the league, 10 years or so at the Patriots, and now he's at the Colts now.
Yeah,
he's been at the Colts for a long time.
Yeah.
He's got proper grey beard and everything. He looks old.
And there is a bonus point available for this question. If you can tell me how many points has he scored for the New England Patriots?
This is Gostkowski. Yes. I'm going to let Jamie guess first on this one. I've guessed first on all of the previous questions.
Yeah, Jamie. God.
I'm sorry. Let's say maybe... Are we doing like postseason as well? Or...
It's total points is the statistic I was given.
Okay. I retract my statement. Jamie answered first on the Harry.
Wait, on the Harry Kane one, I assume. You cut out a little bit there.
Oops.
Let's say, I don't know, like maybe 30 field goals a year.
I love how he's actually going about this mathematically.
And then like...
Rather than just punting on it, the irony being that he's a kicker, not a punter.
35 field goals a year and maybe like 60 touchdowns.
Okay, so, I'm gonna push you for an answer now.
60 add 105. It's 165 times 14.
Okay.
So that's going to be... I don't know, we'll say 2,000.
2,000, okay. Jacob,
I'm going to go strategically here, and I'm going to say 1,900. 99, and then if it's any lower than 2000,
you're playing the role.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well the actual answer was 1,537. So the head roll actually works. Jacob, how could you? How could you do this?
I love being the dickhead.
How could you? Okay. So I guess then the question that leads on from this is: are the Patriots past it? We have a Super Bowl 36 rematch next week. Obviously, it was the St. Louis Rams then, and it was this match that they all go on about. It's the one that kick-started the dynasty. I personally think it would be incredibly romantic for the Patriots dynasty to end on this game next week, and for the Rams to. The thing is, the
That'd
NFL,
be nice, wouldn't it?
The NFL needs the Rams to win to justify moving them from St. Louis.
I think if the Rams win, the entirety of St. Louis will immediately commit suicide because
So nothing too dramatic then.
they've been fucked over for the previous 10 years. The Rams were for about 10 years in St. Louis, and then all of a sudden they moved to LA and are pretty good. So,
I mean, Stan Kroenke as an owner, I mean, I can't really back him, but obviously this particular venture has worked. And St. Louis, I mean, what other teams have they got? They've got the Blues, they've got the Cardinals, they've got... I don't know if they've got an NBA team. I can't think.
no, they haven't. That's it. That's what they've
And
got.
I mean, as far as I'm aware, the Cardinals are pretty good.
Cardinals are, well, they've been a bit worse recently, but they are on the up again.
Oh, right, okay. Well, then, yeah, St. Louis fans will just all kill themselves by the sounds of it. Like, this is a...
and of course they live in St. Louis, so yeah.
I love how you've never been. You've never even been close, and yet you're still going to make that sort of
It
comment.
does have like the highest murder rate in the US.
Oh, excellent. And then there's also the fact that it's the West v East sort of dynamic. Obviously, Boston versus LA. I'm pretty sure.
Of course, it's the same
part...
city matchup as the World Series.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Of course, that's Boston versus LA as well. So perhaps that's foretelling about the results of this.
I knew you were going to say that's an omen.
Put up more of a fight.
I knew you were going to say that's an omen.
The one good thing about the Patriots winning is that, like, when I call Jacob a glory hunter for supporting the Patriots, he can't turn to me and go, "No, you're a glory hunter because your team has won more Super Bowls." Because if the Patriots win, then they won't have done. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, the good news for me is that nobody can ever call me a glory hunter because all of my teams are absolute So, like, there's... What can I do? The Bengals, the Villa, even my...
Villa are more than shit. Villa are the next level of shit.
It's not that they're shit. They just underperform so chronically. Considering the squad and the investment level, it's just appalling.
It's incompetence.
Yeah, it's incompetency, and there's a lot of entitlement. There's this idea that
where does this ring a bell? Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, isn't it funny?
Anyway, back to the point that we were talking about. Are the Patriots past it? Well, clearly Tom Brady has once again magicked up an incredible performance.
He's literally found the deepest, darkest part of his anal crevice and decided to pull yet more bullshit from it.
It really angers me that no matter how bad Tom Brady can be throughout a season, the moment he gets to the playoffs, he's just insanely good again.
Exactly. He has this postseason vibe, apart from when they play the New York Giants, of course.
One player that I wanted to bring up was Rob Gronkowski. So what do you guys think about him this season? He has had, let's face it, a pretty crap season.
I was going to say, another chronic underperformer of this season far.
He blocks well. If that's
he does block well.
Consolation.
I mean, I know somebody was talking about it on Sky Sports NFL. I can't remember who it was, but they were saying that as soon as he stops being a receiving tight end, he'll retire.
But will he? Could he transition into that blocking tight end, into that player who can improve the run game for the Patriots? James Devlin's another player who's had a great blocking postseason back, and has allowed players like Sony Michel to have a really good postseason so far. Running back, so
yeah.
I mean,
perhaps that's the future.
I mean, personally, I think Andy Dalton should have just been a tight end as a big lad that clearly can't throw a ball to save his life. I think he probably would have been better suited to the position. But I do agree that Gronkowski has been has been disappointing this year. Obviously, you've got so many other weapons like Chris Hogan, Edelman being back. I mean, Edelman's been on fire as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And that is obviously, and then you've got TB12, who once again has managed to conjure up some sort of.
You say
magic.
that Edelman nearly lost the Patriots the game twice.
Well, true.
Like
But on that overtime drive, who was the one player that caught the ball time after time when other players were dropping it? It was Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
I mean, Gronk caught it.
So, Jacob, I have to ask, do you think that game was won on a coin toss?
Personally, no, because I think the Patriots will always score in overtime because that's just what they'll do.
I also
Would the
agree.
Chiefs have done that? The Chiefs were in decline towards the end of that game. Would they have scored? We don't know. But I think that's the biggest thing. We don't know, and we should know. There should be a chance for both teams to have the ball, and we should have the rules that college use in the overtime that actually makes an interesting finish rather than the Patriots have the ball, they're going to win, because we know when the Patriots have the ball, they're going to score in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to move us on. I mean, my final thing on the fact would be not that the Patriots won it on a coin toss, but I think the Chiefs lost it on the offside call on D Ford. But moving on to the next question.
From Kent, D Ford.
So about the Saints.
Or did kind of loosen the game.
This next question that I'm going to move us on to before we get too carried away is about the New Orleans Saints, who obviously were borderline robbed. I know me and you had a bit of a chat about this on Twitter, Jamie, but we'll get onto that in a second. But we'll do the question first, which is to do with Drew Brees, who set a completion percentage of 74.4 this season, which is an all-time record in the NFL.
Yeah.
But what is his career completion percentage? Obviously, he's a veteran of the NFL, so he's had a lot of ups and downs through the years. What do you reckon his career completion percentage is? Jacob, I'm going to ask you to go first this time, so that you can't do the head move.
It's a really difficult question. That I'm not familiar with many completion percentages. But,
okay, well, I've just given you one.
It's going to be a complete stab in the dark, really, isn't it?
Okay.
Let's say 60%.
You're going to do 60, Jamie?
Can I do the move?
I mean, he's done it to you, so I guess you can.
I mean, I'm not going to do that. I feel like it's not very fun, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be higher than 60, gotta say. I reckon it's about 60, just between 65 and 70. I'm going to go for 65.
65? The answer is 67.3.
Right,
Jamie takes that point, and
that shows how little I know my stats.
Saying. I mean, fair enough. I mean, I think it also shows you how little, I think how under the radar Drew Brees is sometimes. He's one of those.
You've got a point.
He's one of those quarterbacks that sort of has always been there, as long as I've been watching the sport, which, relatively speaking, relative to his career, isn't even that long, about 4 years now. But he really is one of those players that has just kept going, kind of like Tom Brady. It's just unfortunately he's not always had the same team, the same structure, the same coaching that Brady has had with Belichick. Although
he's better though.
I do think Sean Payton is a good coach though. And then the bonus point on that question: how many Pro Bowls has he been elected to?
I'm going to say there haven't been that many top quarterbacks in the NFC over the years, so I'm probably going to say something like, let's go for 9. 9,
Jamie, any advance?
I'm going to play the move and say 10.
10. The answer is 11.
Wow.
That's
Jamie, impressive. That's impressive.
So again, one of those things, obviously, you said Brady's been sent 16 times, but realistically, Brady has very rarely had those sort of downward seasons that the Saints have suffered. There's not been a year that the Patriots have just altogether finished bottom of the AFC East. I don't even think that's possible.
Brady's also been in the league he's been starting for a fair bit longer, hasn't he?
Well, that too, yeah.
Or at least 2 or 3 years.
So, I mean, is there a part of us that wishes that maybe it was Brees v Brady? I do think that would have been an all-time great. As much respect as I have for Jared Goff, I think he's a good quarterback. I do genuinely think that he could go off and be a superstar as well. But I think a part of me, just like when we had Rodgers v Brady earlier in the year, which was like one of those Clash of the Titans, I would have loved to have seen Breeze.
Well, I think calling Rodgers a Titan is a slight.
Not any. Well, that's it. I think,
questionable.
but a year ago, I don't think you'd have said that. I think this year
He had like a broken leg or whatever.
Yeah, true. I just think this year in
whatever it
particular
was.
has exposed some weaknesses in the Packers. But again, moving back to the Saints, because I think we do have to discuss that call. We're a bit late on it, of course. I think this has already been done to death for the last week. But I mean,
I think this is the look. There are times in the NFL where this rule fucked over a team. This, it's the rule that did it, not the refs. This is.
I love how he's trying to justify the Tuck rule.
Look, there are many instances of that. About you can say about the roughing the passer rule things,
which was objectively wrong. That call was wrong.
There are multiple calls that have been wrong anyway. But I think when it comes to purely the refs getting a decision wrong, this is possibly the worst that I can remember. This is. Yeah. It's just bad, and in the context it was in as well. And I mean, how can you miss that? How can you miss that?
I mean, as a match official, not in that sport, but like it pains me to like have a go at officiating because I know what the pressure can be like when you're in the middle of a game and whatever. And obviously, they knew when Sean Payton was yelling at him like that's the Super Bowl call. I'm sure that referee knew that as well. But the point,
George, there's not one referee that has to make the decision. There are how on the NFL field.
Well, yeah,
one of them can put a flag.
I mean, I haven't actually seen in all the because they keep showing that clip where he goes in from the side, but the problem is you can't actually see where the official is in either of the clips that they keep showing, and because for me the side judge or the back judge has to give that. I mean, hell, even the umpire or the referee on the other side of the field should be able to give that, but. I don't know. The only explanation that you can see is that he thought the ball was far closer to Tommy Lee Lewis than it actually was, and so he thought it wasn't PI because he's like played the man as the ball's arrived. Obviously, we know now that the ball was miles away. It's never even it's not even the same sort of ballpark as them, but. It does baffle me. And do you think that coaches should be able to challenge PI calls?
100%. They introduced that rule. Look, the NFL have this version of challenging either penalties. CFL introduced it 2 years ago now, and it's been very, very successful. But why can't the NFL see that and just introduce it themselves?
Because there's the issue that the more challenges and the more questions you give coaches and stuff like that, it's the less faith you're putting in the officials.
But then look at the CFL. Look at the CFL.
Which makes viewer ratings drop even further.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, there is that because obviously people don't want to be... It's like VAR. It's like people don't want to be waiting an extra 5-10 minutes just to see, because they can't celebrate.
But if it gets the right call, then fans don't care.
I think that, especially from like a gambling perspective, I agree. I mean, there's some bookmakers that have literally reimbursed Saints fans. They have said they're not going to take their money because the call was so bad, which I mean is an act of good faith, to be fair. But it does kind of tell you. It was
a horrible call.
It does tell you that. I mean, obviously, you said, Jamie, on Twitter that realistically the Saints could have buried that game, and so
the call was horrible. But I don't think the Saints can blame the loss purely on that call, because even if they had got a touchdown, the Rams went down the field and got first and goal. They then got a third and goal where Goff tried to run it into the end zone and was stopped by a pretty bad face mask that didn't get called. Which forced them to kick instead of go for a touchdown.
So there's Rams.
So even if the Saints did get that touchdown, there's no guarantee the Rams wouldn't have tied it anyway.
So you're saying,
and then obviously Breeze did throw a pick in overtime.
The overtime issue, I think, is separate because overtime was a different. Overtime shouldn't have happened. If the call's right, you don't have overtime, and I think that call definitely rattled the players to the point where I don't think. The Saints players were quite fixed in their mind where they should have been. And that's why they made the mistake that they did. I mean, fair play to the Rams. They capitalised on it. They took the call and ran with it. I mean, that's what you have to do. Like they say, you play to the whistle, and there was no whistle. There was no flag in that instance, and it cost the Saints that they lost their focus. But ultimately, this is one of the richest leagues in the world. This is one of the most watched leagues in the world. Why can't there, like, literally everyone in that entire stadium, everyone watching it on TV, everyone saw it, but the crucial two or more people it should have. And I think Saints fans can rightfully feel aggrieved by it. Their level of salt does make me laugh. I sent that article to you earlier about the Saints bar, the New Orleans bars that are going to show the 2010 Super Bowl instead of the 2019 one, which is a level of salt that I haven't quite gotten used to. I can't actually get my head around that. But I think that call will probably still be being talked about during the Super Bowl as well. Okay, so moving on to our next round, which is the wild card round, which is could be basically it'll be two random sports that I've just picked and a couple of like things that have been in the news about them recently. See how much sort of like this like more rounded sporting knowledge we've got going on here.
This is the round I'm looking forward to.
Okay, well, we'll see whether you're saying that in about 10 minutes' time. So, the first question concerns tennis. Obviously, the big thing that's been in the news recently to do with Andy Murray retiring, and I thought we'd just do a little bit of a throwback to 2013 when obviously that was the big year for him when he won Wimbledon, and he beat Novak Djokovic. I remember watching the game in the final to become the men's champion. But the question that I have for you is, who did he beat in the semi-final to get there?
Ooh. Now that's an interesting question.
I believe Djokovic beat Del Potro, just to eliminate somebody else from contention.
I'm going to say I'm just going to have another wild stab in the dark here because this is once again something that nobody knows. Joe Wilfred Tsonga.
No, it isn't, I'm afraid.
Ooh.
Not Tsonga.
Once I hear it, I'll be like, yeah, that was it, because I did watch most of that tournament. But
See, I don't think I've ever heard of this guy before, to be honest.
We will.
all right. No need for that.
If Jamie doesn't get it, give us the nationality and we'll have another guess.
Was it like Ferrer or someone?
Oh, David Ferrer, no.
No.
What is the nationality?
Oh, I'm just going to have a quick look up now. He's Polish.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
I didn't actually write that down, so but I do just look that up now.
Maybe I won't know who he is.
It's Jerzy Janowicz or Janowicz.
I've got to be honest. I have no idea who he is.
I've heard of Janowicz, yeah.
Janowicz, there you go. Then I apologise for my pronunciation.
I wouldn't have got that.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Well, that's why I thought it was a good question because I don't think anybody really. Obviously, when we think back to that tournament, I think back to that summer, like the fact that he'd lost the year before to Federer in the men's singles at the London Olympics, and then a year later he finally returns to SW12 or something like that, and picks up
1-2, also known as 12.
Shut up. and picked up the men's singles title. So yeah, I do think Andy Murray is a great loss to sport, like not just tennis but to sport in general, especially in this country. He's one of those icons kind of thing that, especially as I've grown up, like he's always been around.
I think when it comes to tennis, you've got to remember that in the 80s, players peaked age 21, 22, and now 5 players, all but one of them I think at least 28. So, it's a sport where players are becoming older, and unfortunately, you're just going to have top players who are going to have to retire because their body just gives up on them. That's the way the sport's going.
I think that's sport in general. But,
well, I mean, tennis has been dominated over the past decade or so. If you think of the Grand Slams each year, I think all but 2 of them have been won by either Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, Murray, or Wawrinka. So it's completely dominated by just a few players who've been around for a long, long time. And I think over the next few years, they're going to have some injury problems and are probably going to retire. So,
yeah. Well, I'm going to move us on to our next question, which is concerning cricket. And at the time of recording, England have literally just lost their
quite a lot.
Their test to the West Indies. And this question does concern the West Indies, who obviously their most famous player of all time, Brian Lara, and like absolute legend of the game, had his own PlayStation game made after him. Like, he was such a big legend that I think I used to play that when I was like 6 or 7. But obviously the West Indies covers a vast variety of nations. I want to know which country specifically of the West Indies does Brian Lara come from?
Ooh.
How productive?
That's a difficult question. I mean, it's just going to be another stab in the dark because I'm going to let Jamie go first.
I thought you do all this umming and ahhing and then just, I'm just not going to answer.
I'm going to say Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic, okay.
Jamie, the Dominican Republic aren't even represented by the West Indies. Can we just be clear about this one?
Jacob's utterly just on Jamie
I'm
right
so
now.
sorry. I'm
pretty sure it's not.
I'm going to look it up now. I really hope Jacob's wrong. I won't lie. The Dominican Republic, no, he is right. Dominica is represented by the
Dominica is, yeah, but the Dominican Republic is not.
Oh, shut up. Don't make it sound like you knew that all along. You've literally just said I don't think.
Well, then I will go for Grenada.
Grenada, okay.
I'm going to go for a country that produces a lot of cricketers, even though people forget about it, Guyana.
Okay, the answer was Trinidad. But GG, guys, but that's no point for anyone. And that brings us... I'm not going to dwell on cricket, because honestly, why would you? The next question is going to be on the geography of sport, which I know is a question that obviously both of you would be hopefully quite apt at.
Hopefully is the operative word. We've not been very good at this quiz so far, so we'll see.
This question is regarding the NBA, which held a London game last Thursday between the Washington Wizards and the New York Knicks.
And nobody cares.
Ouch. And my question to you is the distance in miles between Washington and New York greater or less than the total combined points that were scored by the two teams at the O2 Arena?
Miles?
In miles. Is the distance between Washington, D.C. and New York City...
Well, it's greater, surely.
Greater or less than the total points combined scored?
I mean, it could be less than, thinking about how high-scoring NBA games are, but I'm going to go with greater.
You're going to go with greater then, okay? Jamie?
I mean, I'd imagine the points scored wouldn't be much higher than 200. And I think it's probably going to be slightly more than 200 miles between them. So I'm going to say greater as well.
You're both going to say greater, and you'd both be correct. It's 224 miles between the two cities, and 203 points were scored. So it's not that much in it.
No,
it's not. It's less than I thought would be in it.
Not actually that much in it, but no, you both get the point for that, so well done.
Nice.
And yes, the NBA will probably be doing more games over in London, just like the MLB's bringing the Boston versus New York series. I'm sure the NBA will be looking to branch out as well. I do kind of like the fact they're bringing the American sports overseas. I mean, obviously we went to the game at Wembley between the Chargers and the Titans and saw the Mike Vrabel masterpiece of that 2-point conversion at the end.
I think it's interesting what they're trying to do, but ultimately, are they going to help the long-term development of these sports?
This is what I think. I think it's a nice little gimmick, but I think it probably just annoys the American fans more.
Yeah,
because that's a season, like as a season ticket holder, that's one of your games gone.
Well, we've seen for a long time that teams in La Liga are trying to games over China, and of course the Spanish fans very unhappy with that. It happens in American sports. Could it happen with European sports for regular season games?
Could you imagine that? Like the FA Cup finals played at like CenturyLink Field. Like, that'd be quite. Again, you don't think about it going back the other way. It's quite an odd one.
Well, I think it's an interesting one when expanding to places like Asia, where the market for football is huge. but don't necessarily have the same teams, the brands that we have in Europe. I think it could be an interesting one for the future.
Well, we'll have to see how that develops, I guess, over the next 10 years. And the next round then we come on to is the college sports round. And this
Jacob's going to destroy me at this.
Well, this concerns college football in particular, which it's to do with the end of season awards.
Okay.
At the end of each season, Ray Guy Award is presented to the most prolific what? That is the question.
I'm going to guess once again, because this is a very difficult question, and I'm going to guess.
I take that as a compliment.
The most prolific kicker.
Most prolific kicker. Okay, Jamie.
I'm going to go another guess. I'm going to go for tackler.
Most prolific tackler. Tackles. The answer is the Ray Guy Award is presented to the most prolific punter. And I'm going to give Jacob the point for that, because I think he literally couldn't have come much closer.
How can you be a prolific punter?
It's a good point. I mean, there is accuracy involved, and obviously the way. I mean,
but prolific is all about numbers, surely.
I take it. Michael Dixon won that last year.
I would have no idea. Personally, I just saw it as an award, and I was like, Ray Guy Award. Yeah, I hope they haven't heard of that before. But it's again, there's all sorts of awards that they have for college sports. I mean, just college football. There are about 20 or 30 that I was reading off the list.
There's a lot.
And obviously that's just college football. I mean, for all the other sports as well, because it's not just the 4 major leagues. There's obviously lacrosse and things like that they do, which will also have their own awards.
There is some surprisingly popular college sports over in America. At a college level, a lot of people watch volleyball, and you have things like wrestling as well, which are big at college level.
Just want to clarify, you said that these are ones that aren't professional. The
college level of these sports in America is the amount of fans they have is incredible. Whereas professional level, there's not really the same the same popularity. It's bizarre over in America.
Indeed,
it's a weird country.
Now, ain't that the truth? We won't get into politics. Okay, and our final round then is the statistically round.
Oh God!
I knew you'd enjoy this, Jamie. And one of these questions is to do with football, the other's to do with the NFL. Just sort of bring us back to the 2 main sports that we've been discussing today, because obviously they're the ones that are most relevant. Obviously, in a couple of weeks, the NFL will sort of go out the window a little bit as it goes into its 6 month off season. But the statistically round, the first question I have for you is, statistically, of the old firm teams, which has the better of the head-to-head record?
Is this all time?
Of all time, across all competitions.
Of all time, I think it's Rangers.
Well, in that case, I'll go for Celtic.
The answer is Rangers.
Of recent years, it's Celtic, but from my memory, it's all time. It is.
Celtic have been better. Well, I mean, very recently it's been Rangers with that 1-0 win they got in December. But yes, you are right. Celtic have been the better team of the last sort of 10, 15 years. But before that, Rangers were much more dominatory of them. And then the final question of our first podcast of today's episode is to do with the NFC East. Which has
favourite division,
which has 2 very prolific owners in Jerry Jones and Dan Snyder.
Oh no!
And I want to know: have they owned their teams for more combined years than there have been Super Bowls played?
Yes.
Yeah, I would immediately say yes.
So both of you would actually be wrong.
Wow.
They have owned their teams for 48 years combined, but obviously there's been 52 Super Bowls played. So
how many is that each?
I believe it was 19 to Jones and 29. No, it must have been the other way around. Sorry, 29 to Jones and 19 to Snyder.
Right.
So obviously both are owned. Well, one owner's certainly more hated than the other. The other's probably the leader of the true evil empire of the NFL. Jerry Jones is a little bit of a shady character, to say the least. Dan Snyder is just honestly honestly just a hateful man more than anything. And I feel bad for the Redskins. I find it hard while they're still called that to be sorry for them, but that is once again Snyder's fault.
Here's a question. Oh, carry on, Jamie.
I was going to say, I think a better question would be, what's your percentage chance of getting murdered if you walk to New Orleans and say the Rams deserve to win?
Probably higher than Breeze's completion percentage.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, who's the worst owner in the Premier League?
In the Premier League?
Yeah.
I mean...
Because that's a difficult question. We don't tend to have those RC owners.
What's his name, hasn't it?
What's his
Newcastle
name?
man.
That's helpful. Oh, Mike Ashley.
Ashley James. Mike
Yeah.
Ashley, that's the one.
Mike
Ashley, yeah, he's probably got to take it. Although I think I'm running not too far off. But yeah, you're probably right with Mike Ashley there.
Sorry, who did you say was runner up?
The guys at West Ham.
The David brothers, David Sullivan and David Gold.
Yeah.
Again, I've said it before. I just think I'm probably going to get murdered if I ever go to East London for saying this, but I do think West Ham fans are a little bit ungrateful. Obviously, they've got the massive stadium. I appreciate they felt like they lost their identity moving away from Upton Park, which I do think was a wrong decision. However, fact of the matter is they're very rarely at threat of relegation from the Premier League. And they've got a massive stadium, their fan base is good, they've got guys like Arnautovic.
You say that, but they did get relegated less than 10 years ago.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the present. The point is they invaded the pitch last season, not 10 years ago. They invaded the pitch. I mean, that really is to the point where Burnley, I think it was Burnley, the Burnley squad and dugout crew were shielding children in their dugout. That says that really is an indictment on the fans that I find hard to shake off when I think of the club. So the final score from our inaugural quiz was Jamie scored a grand total of 4 points, and Jacob scored
That doesn't sound like enough.
And Jacob scored a grand total of 5. Jacob takes the quiz, although by far less total points were scored than I would have liked. Yeah, this has been fun. I enjoy talking about some of these topics, to be fair.
I think what this has proved, really, is that we know very little about sport.
Why are we even doing this? Really, that's what we've discovered today. Why? That's the question that really we can savour over the next week. Why are we even doing this? And I think with that we'll leave it there.
Bye.
Bye.